Good morning, everybody. First of all, thank you so much for attending this webinar this morning and making time to attend it. As usual, can I check that you can all hear me okay? There's a little chat button at the bottom. If someone could just type in there that you can hear me. Yes, you can. Thank you. So let's get started. Welcome to our Reclaiming Your Time webinar presented today by Virish Paul. My name is Agnes Lizdenite and I'm one of the client manager here at Paul & Co, and I will be your moderator today. We are using the Zoom platform today for the webinar, and for those of you who are familiar with the webinar environment, we have got some Zoom settings to go through. Yeah, so this is my picture. So you can select the audio settings here to select and test your speakers. You can submit any questions that you have got via Q&A button. We will answer any questions that you've got at the end of the webinar, but feel free to drop any questions here as we go along. You can, of course, leave the meeting at any time just by clicking this Leave Meeting button. And just to let you know, this webinar is being recorded, so we will be sending a copy of the recording and also the copy of the slides to everyone that has attended today. So now I would like to introduce today's presenter, Virish Paul, the director and founder of Paul & Co. Chartered Accountants Limited. And Virish will be taking you through the webinar today. Morning, Virish.
Morning, Agnes. Morning. Thank you. I'm sorry I couldn't get the slides working to begin with, but everyone managed to see your picture. And more important,
very quickly.
more important to have your picture than my picture on the screen. But thank you very much for the introduction. And yes, I look forward to seeing you at the end with the questions. So you'll be please keep an eye on the question box, and we will have a chat once I finish my presentation. So yes. Good morning, everybody. The irony, in fact, is not lost on me in that if you're here today, that means you already reclaimed some of your time. It's the people who aren't here, the people who have not booked despite various reminders. Those are the people then who need to really hear my message. Anyway, even although you are here, well done. Thank you. Well done for being here. And I appreciate you making the choice, because it's, as you will hear later today, it's all about making the choices. And hopefully I will give you some value for your being here today. So as I normally do, let's look at the thought of the day. Consider this quote here, which says, either run the day or it runs you. Run the day or the day runs you. This, in fact, reflects the theme of today's content. I'm going to cover a few things this morning. And so here is what I'm going to cover in this session. We'll discuss why we are always busy. Aren't we? I am, you are, we're all busy all the time. And then look at some mindsets that will help us to reclaim our time. And this will be, a mindset about habits we have built up over the years and how we can change those habits, and a few other mindsets. We'll also identify where time is being wasted, because that is important. And then I'll present some strategies, 5 practical ways to permanently free up your time. Some of them will apply to you, some might not, but I have these 5 strategies. And then hopefully, if you apply those strategies, we can then consider what you can do with the time you have. And more importantly, as part of this presentation today, I'd like to focus on the steps you can take, what you gain from today's session, what you can do to move forward. And then we will conclude with the question and answers, where I hopefully will answer any questions you have. So please put your questions in the Q&A thing at the bottom, and Agnes will monitor them for us, and then I will try and answer them for you. So having set the scene, let's now focus on why we are always busy. And here are my top 5 reasons. Work will expand. What does it expand to the time available? What do I mean by that? I mean, typical example, if you give yourself time to do something and it's a lengthy piece of time, you will take all of that time to do something. And this was brought home to me this morning when before I had to prepare for this session, I had to do something very urgently for a client. And I allowed myself 1 hour to do that. Now, in 1 hour, I know normally I wouldn't take about 2 to 3 hours to do that thing. And you know what? In that 1 hour today, I managed to do everything. Yes, I had to rely on one or two things, and I'll refer to them later in my presentation. Things like the habits, like the other things you can rely on to get your work done. So work does expand to the time available because there's no shortage of distractions. When you want to do something, when you got 4 days to do something, you'll say, okay, you pick up something and then drop it because something else, another distraction has taken you away. It could be just an email. It could just be a phone call, or somebody has walked in, press the doorbell and they come in and you say, that becomes more urgent because you know there's time to do the other thing. That is all about reclaiming time, because once we start using our time properly, our perception of business changes. We are busy if you allow ourselves to be busy. It's almost like I said, you give yourself enough time to do something and you'll use all of it. Give yourself short amount of time to do something, then you'll find some spare time. You're not so busy after all. And then, of course, there is this thing about perception again in the mind. Maybe you think successful people are always busy, or busy equals successfulness. Whichever way you look at it, you understand what I mean. It's if you're a successful person, you're a busy person. And also being busy is an excuse. I think it is, because that I'll try and explain that in the mindsets I will cover. So in other words, we choose to work in the way that we do. So if we make better choices about how to reclaim our time, we can actually find the time. So let me now turn, first of all, to some mindsets which we have to change or understand to make changes in our lifestyle. And I'll start off by quickly looking at the 7 habits of highly effective people, developed by very famous author Stephen Covey. His first habit, which he lists, is the habit is to be proactive, and that's in your bottom left-hand corner of the screen. The first habit is to be proactive. Make the choice, as I said, to improve your life. So it's all about improving your life. And you do that through the things you can influence. Remember those words, you can influence. The second is to begin with the end in mind. Your values. Your values are a framework for decision making. Use them to set your goals, and then focus on achieving them. So goals, focus on them, and let's achieve them. The third, and that's equally important, is to put first things first. Set your priorities and focus on those priorities. And by that same token, avoid wasting time on unimportant and non-urgent tasks. So these first 3 habits, in fact, relate to managing and reclaiming your time, the subject, what we're talking about. So I'll only be talking about these 3 today. The other habits, as you can see on the screen, are thinking win-win, seeking first to understand, then be understood, synergizing, and sharpening the saw. Let me now turn to the second mindset. You may have seen this before because I've often referred to it in my presentations. Today, I want to link it to the 7 habits we just looked at. In fact, more specifically, the first habit. The first habit, which was, if you remember, to be proactive. And the second habit, which was start with the end in mind. Now, being proactive is about staying above the line, the bits in green, and focusing on what you can control. Those are the things you can control, and not become a victim and saying there's nothing you can do about the lack of time you have. Yeah. You can do something about the lack of time you have, because confronting it, as it may sound, you choose to be busy. Specifically, I think you're choosing to do the things you're doing and may not be the important ones, not the priorities. So you have a choice to take ownership, accountability, and responsibility, i.e., be above the line, and not use excuses or find excuses, which is the below the line model. Now, Stephen Covey's second habit is highly effective people, also ties into this or bad model, as we like to refer to it. The habit is starting with the end in mind. So, if your end in mind is to make sure you got enough time to do everything you want to do, then you have it. It's really about thinking how you'd like people to describe you at a funeral. That comes straight out of his book. Now, without getting morbid, and I did when I first read his book, you can actually start being the person now, the person they'll talk about after you're gone. So stay above the line on this one. Stay firm on your time management so you can be that purpose. So it's really all about habits, isn't it? Creating Atomic Habits is again another book I have come across. And the second mindset, which I am sharing, is about this thing about atomic habits. This also speaks directly to starting with the end in mind. So, end in mind, what I mean by that is building identity based habits, the habits which will enable you to better prioritize your time and achieve better results. So, by focusing on who you need to be, remember who you need to be, which is basically your identity, and choosing those habits which are consistent with this identity of yours, your outcomes will flow more easily. And that is the mindset we have to think about first. So, from a reclaiming your time perspective, let's focus on your identity. Say you want to be more proactive. Yeah, I said that to you. Let's be more proactive. It's easily said than done, surely. But maybe not. If you do focus on what you can control, and you may find yourself distracted at times, but if you set aside time to complete some of the business things you are important, then you will become what you want to become and not be distracted by that email or text message which just popped up on your phone, as mine did a few seconds ago. That is what is called a cue. You just seen a message on your phone and you want to read it. Because it's a craving. The dopamine hit, which says you need to attend to it. You crave to deal with it. So you open the email, you open the text message. That was your response. You responded immediately because you felt it was a short email or a text from a client, and you know the answer. So you quickly tap out a response, and 10 minutes later, you hit send. Done. What's happened? You have a reward. You feel satisfied that you responded. Yeah. There was a message, there's an email, text message, and you responded immediately. You feel good about it. But before you know it, you're on to the next email and the next text, and so on and so on and so on, and you've forgotten what it was that was the priority of the day. So what we need to do is, I hope you can see what I'm trying to get at. What we need to do is to remove the queue.
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I can't do that.
Oh, Siri says you can't do that. There was another distraction. Go away, Siri, please don't come back. So there you are. That's the sort of thing which takes time away. And that is what we're here to reclaim. We got to replace all these cues and replace it with different ones. So do what I just did. I told Siri off. Do what we did. We switched the phones off. I forgot to switch Siri off. I should have put it in airplane mode. I switched my emails off, and that's what we need to do. While you're working on your business, while you're working somewhere, get rid of these distractions for the period of time you need to focus on. Then you will find you have chosen a different cue, you've chosen a different craving, and you will respond better. So we need a mindset that reflects our identity. Who do we need to be to control our time? Only you can adjust your behavior. You must have heard that. And if you want to reclaim your time, we have to do something different. So let's look at what you can do differently. And I'm going to introduce you to the best time management model ever written. And it won't come as a surprise to you that the so-called achievers matrix, was also created by the same Stephen Covey. By the way, if you have not read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, put that on your reading list. Yeah, you will read that part where about the funeral, but I won't introduce that to you, so you know what that means. But read the book, put it on your reading list and read it. So in a nutshell, this matrix in front of you reflects that we all live in a time pressured world. Time pressure. We have multiple overlapping commitments, haven't we? And urgency is no longer reserved for special occasions. So separating tasks into these 4 quadrants in front of you will help us to better manage a flood of responsibilities. So many responsibilities. And what we need to do is we all want to do excellent work and maintain a positive frame of mind. This matrix reflects the third habit of highly effective people, which is put first things first. So we need to spend less time working on the urgent quadrant. That's the one in the top left. Surprised? We need to spend less time working in this quadrant and more time working where? What I call quadrant number 2, the quadrant of quality. Spend more time in the quadrant of quality. This is the quadrant of planning, prevention, and innovation. This is where we will improve our processes. And this is where we are most productive. It's also where we can prevent a number of important things from becoming urgent. Yeah? We prevent them from becoming urgent and falling into that disruptive first quadrant, the quadrant of urgency. So stay away from the quadrant of urgency. And the only way you can do that is to focus on the quadrant of quality, preparation, prevention, planning. That's where you have to be. We also need to assess what things that are not important are distracting us from working in the quadrant of quality. What disruptions can we minimize? What disruptions can we eliminate? What strategies, in other words, can be used to reclaim some of the time spent on the non urgent, the non important things, in the quadrant of waste or the quadrant of deception? You don't want to go there. So that is the achiever matrix, courtesy of Stephen Covey. So, what are the 5 strategies? Let me come down, introduce you to my first strategy. Excuse me. Strategy number 1. The first strategy is to reclaim the time. It's to use what I'm going to introduce to you as the productivity pyramid. It's this pyramid will look at the time versus the return on the time invested. And there are 5 stages and strategies which I'll just introduce to you to maximize your return. So the aim is to use the time, but to maximize the return on the time invested. The first stage is improve. And then what does that achieve for you? This is where you start working on mastering your expertise, on working better. So get better at the work you're doing by improving yourself. Next is to increase. Increase what? The next stage is increased, but increase what? This is where you get more people to do what you are doing, your employees, your contractors, or even start outsourcing the work. Yeah. That way, you increase the amount of time available to you. But that's only stage 2 of the pyramid. What's my third stage? Invest. Invest in what? Invest in technology. Technology to scale your business. I mentioned to you this morning how I managed to do something quicker than I would normally have done because we have technology behind us in their office. I can use things to automate certain things. And that's what I was doing because we have invested in technology. That has given me more time and that will give you more time. But above that, there's something else you can do. We can go on to invent. Invent what? Our own systems or technology. Yeah. Okay. We have invented things in our office. We have systemized things. Things are working. Maybe we haven't got any valuable IP in that, but at least it has helped me find the time. And that is the 4th stage of this pyramid. And finally, how about innovation? Which in the simplest form is working on better things, where you get highest return with the lowest time investment. So can you free up time by employing others or contracting out some of your work on the second level? What system and software are you using? Could you utilize them? Well, they'll help you free your time and increase your efficiency. How about improving systemization, which will free up your time and also allow you to grow your business? Grow your business without increasing risk or workload for you. That's what it is. That amounts to reclaiming your time. And the other thing you could be working on to drive a better return on your time investment. The COVID-19 environment has forced so many of us to think about how we can adapt, innovate, re-engineer, or reinvent the way we work. I'm happy to discuss how to use this productivity pyramid to your advantage. Often, like I have said, a fresh set of eyes looking over your unique situation opens up opportunities that you may have not seen before. Combining your expertise with ours is a great way to help distinguish the wood from the trees and come up with really better ways of working, all about reclaiming your time. So that was strategy number one: utilize the productivity pyramid. What's strategy number two coming up? Stop working with the wrong people. Sounds strange, but if you try to avoid working with people who, for instance, don't pay your bills on time, treat your staff badly, or don't live into your core values, are unreliable, what will that do? That'll open the door of opportunities for these wrong people to leave and free up your time to spend with better customers, better clients. And your team, your staff will thank you for it. So, is there someone who comes to mind that you'd like to open the door and give them the opportunity of moving away so that you can reclaim your time? Think about it. Rotten apples come to the mind. It's a strategy which will save your time. I mean, I don't want to say this, but over the years I have done it and I'll continue to do it because there's nothing worse than having people who don't appreciate what you do for them or who are always harassing you, bothering your staff, and then not appreciating what you've done for them. Do you want to work with those kind of people? I don't. Maybe you shouldn't either. So that was simply strategy number two. I will now jump to strategy number three. And I could spend the whole day, a whole webinar. In fact, I have spent 3 hours on this subject, how to run better meetings. But today I will just briefly run it through you because meetings are what takes up our time. Let's face it. Whether they are social meetings, business meetings, or your team meetings, they do take up your time, but they can be managed. And let's see how we can do that. So the first thing I would suggest to run a better meeting is to set a time limit. Okay. Make sure you allow the right amount of time to it. It can be a 10-minute meeting, make it a 10-minute meeting. If it's a monthly team meeting, okay, you need 45 minutes, set a time limit of 45 minutes and check the time as you go through the meeting and remind everyone of the time agreed. So time limit. And make sure you get the reports prior to a meeting. No point allowing people take up time in a meeting to start reporting on things which they should have come reported on prior to a meeting. That is reclaiming time of a meeting. Reclaim that time. And let's set a regular rhythm for team meetings. If you have regular meetings, daily or weekly meetings, you get a lot achieved. Having these meetings scheduled means your team will remain fully informed and you won't be repeating yourself to every team member. And likewise, you're also providing a forum for feedback. So you could get less interruptions during the working day. So there is a benefit of having a meeting, and that's what I mean. Set a regular meeting, have those team meetings, but manage them. Set a clear purpose, agenda, and don't let people get off on a tangent. Bring it back to the subject matter, because otherwise they'll be soaking up unnecessary time. And that is what we're trying to reclaim. Agree the actions, write them down, and avoid lengthy discussions. Give time for discussion, but lengthy discussions have got to be avoided. Get to the decisions quickly. And that's where it's chairmanship of a meeting is all about. And finally, accountability. Check in on the actions that you agreed at the previous meeting and follow them. That's about setting up a regular rhythm so that things get done. And that is all what a meeting is all about, isn't it? So that was my strategy number three. Now, strategy number four is something you probably have never heard of. The 10 hats organizational review. This force strategy will help you take control of your time. So what do I mean by the 10 hats organizational review? The 10 hats is an essential mindset for business structure, leadership, and management. It clearly defines what roles in your business are operational, that's below the line, versus those that are strategic. It helps you to draw accountability lines to allow for better planning, better reporting, and better delegation, and ultimately time management, as well as helping assess any resourcing gaps. It's important to ensure your business is sustainable, scalable, and ultimately sellable. The 10 hats, in fact, reflect the 10 departments that exist in any business, big or small. Now, you're going to tell me you didn't know you had 10 departments in your business. And I'm saying you today, you have 10 departments in your business. And every department needs one leader. But remember, you don't need to be that leader because the responsibility and doing are not the same. So the leader has to delegate the work and leave it to the ultimate decision makers. So, how many hats are you wearing in your business? I bet most of you are wearing all the hats and doing everything yourself. So, what hats should you be considering removing to free up your capacity to work more on important things? And doing a 10 hats organization review will analyze the hats you're wearing well and those that are perhaps not your natural strength or are being neglected because you haven't got the time. So when we carry out this review with our clients, we form a plan with them to ensure they take some of those hats off. Reluctant they may be, but they see the logic of it and they take the hats off. So if I can summarize the benefits of the 10 hats organization review very clearly, very short, quickly, they provide you clarity around individual roles and how they work together. They improve delegation and provide personal development for your team members. There are clear accountability lines. You can identify resourcing gaps and outsourcing opportunities and provide for scaling up without blowing you apart. So let's briefly consider some examples of contracting out or outsourcing to help you reclaim your time. Firstly, maybe marketing. Marketing is an obvious option. Now, not every business can justify employing a full-time marketing person. You need somebody to create and implement a marketing plan, maintain your website, and deliver email and social media campaigns. So is that something you could outsource? Then what about finance? Finance is another common hat which can be outsourced. Do you really need to be doing your VAT returns in the evening after all the hard work of the day? Do you really need to be posting everything in your bookkeeping system? HR is another obvious example, and an expensive one to get wrong. And let's be honest, not many of us aspire to be HR experts. I'm not. So outsource that part of it. IT and admin are other areas where outsourcing could minimize your risk and save you time and money. And that is what comes out of a 10 hats organization review. So that was strategy 4. Strategy number 5, delegate effectively. Now, there are many misconceptions around delegation. Delegation in my book is a skill. It's a skill that should be mastered. Delegate is not, throwing a task at someone and hoping they'll do it right. Effective delegation requires communication. First, assess the task and then delegate it to the right person. Provide clear support as they learn how to complete the task. You must communicate the parameters, both, and do that verbally or by email or by a written procedure. Ask your team member to repeat back the task instructions to ensure nothing was lost in the translation, and set a clear deadline for completion. So, articulating the project objectives will help your team members to understand your expectations. Most importantly, set some time of your time to review the outcome together, because it's unlikely that they'll get it right the first time round. And you'll be surprised at the results. In fact, don't be surprised or offended if, with their fresh perspective, they find a more efficient way of doing or coming with a desired outcome. This is, in fact, one of the most happiest byproduct of delegation, along with improved trust, respect, and communication, and even productivity of your team, of the person who's been delegated, and you who have delegated, because that leads to improved profit and happiness for everyone involved, including, by the way, your customers. But many people confuse delegation with abdication, and that's what you need to avoid. You need to avoid abdicating, giving a task to somebody and forgetting about it, unclear instructions, not setting a time frame, not setting clear objectives. And this is what will happen then: distrust, lack of respect, low productivity, the jobs are delayed, they go over budget, disgruntled team members, and unhappy customers. No future work. So, those are the 5 strategies. What will you do with the time? When you have found the time, when you reclaimed your time, what will you do? So, what will you do with the time you freed up? 5 things that I would recommend: start communicating and teaching others what you learned. That will consolidate your knowledge. Spend some more time to sharpening your saw, planning more effectively, and being more commercial. That's what life is all about. Create those better habits. And of course, taking time for yourself to ensure your own health and well being. Your own health and well being. And breathe. One thing we have all learned in these last few months is we need to relax and breathe and take things easier. So I hope that's what you're going to do. So, your next steps. So, what are your next steps from here? I would say you need to assess, first of all, where your time is being underutilized. This will help you become more conscious of the daily choices you have, the daily choices you make that impact your capacity. Get clear on the habits you wish to create, the ones you know will improve your own productivity and your focus in life. Plan for those sustainable improvement, because that will start with you and the leaders in your business. Identify, the three most important actions. Identify three most important actions, and I'll be asking you to record these in your feedback forms. Record them, the three most important actions, because that's the most powerful thing you can do to bring about the real change after today's webinar. Focus on what you can do, instead of worrying about what is out of your control. And like I said to you in the beginning, we are here for you and would like to help you, whether you're a client of ours or not. So, how can we help you? We could carry out a 10 hats organization review for you, and we also provide what we call accountability coaching. Now, these two things obviously have a price attached to them, but we can discuss that with you depending upon how much input you require from us and how we can help you achieve your objectives and get some returns on your investment. I can send you a copy of the Achiever Matrix worksheet, which is free, no cost, or you could ask us to organize a complimentary meetings. Now, these meetings are available to all our clients, non-clients, where I sit down for about 20-25 minute session. We can focus on what your priorities are, what your needs are, and what we can do if we can help you, or where you can go to get help. Because unless you reclaim your time, you're not going to be able to achieve your objectives. And reclaiming your time will come first, and then you will find you will be in control of your time. Now, control and time. You will have often heard the adage which says, time cannot be controlled. Yes, time cannot be controlled, but what you can control is how you manage that time. And that is what this morning has been about. So now, having finished my thing, I'm going to hand over to Agnes to see if she has got any questions, which I shall gladly answer. So, Agnes, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Thank you, Virish. So again, just to remind you, if anyone got any questions, please just submit them now in the Q&A box, and we will answer any questions that anyone's got. So the first question that we have got: what can you advise to business owners who are constantly battling the tendency to clients please out of fear of losing them?
Was that to please clients out of fear of losing them? I see. Yeah, well, okay. I mean, I don't know how common that is, but it is quite a common problem. We try and go out of our way to keep our customers, our clients happy. And why do we do it? Is it because of fear of losing them? I think that is part of the reason. It is indeed part of the reason. We overwhelm ourselves. We go to extra length to help our clients. I'm sure you do as well. We do that to give them as much help as we can. But at the same time, I would suggest what is more important as far as managing your time is concerned is to focus on those clients that or customers that appreciate what you're doing. It's about letting go of the people you don't want to work with. I mentioned that as one of the uh, strategies. You need to work on the clients or businesses that bring you rewards, and that, to put it bluntly, is those who will pay you for what you're doing, who appreciate what you're doing. So yes, there is a fear of losing them, but you have to take control. That's what this webinar has been about. You have to be in control, and that means also being in control of how you manage your customers, your clients. Unless you can control that, you will not be able to control your time. And that is my answer.
Thank you, Virish. So Sanyi has asked whether the slides will be available.
Yes,
So as you know, this webinar is being recorded, so we will be sending a copy of the recording and also the copy of the slides to everyone that has attended today. So I hope that answers the question. And so we have got another question. Quite often the tasks are taking longer than I expect, and I am feeling frustrated or overwhelmed with the timelines. As a result, I have to work during the weekends. How can I improve my work performance?
yeah, I think I did mention about being overwhelmed with too much, and that is often a difficulty. How much time you allocate yourself, and there's no magic answer to that. But experience tells you, obviously, you rely on your experience, how much time you need. But if you find yourself getting overwhelmed, just ask yourself this question: did you manage your time effectively? Did you switch off the distractions? Did you switch off the emails while you were doing this? Did you switch off your text messages to focus on what you were doing? Is that why it's taken you longer? If that wasn't the reason, because you did everything the right thing, then what else was it? Then maybe that time you did need more time. So don't kick yourself, don't beat yourself about it. Accept that yes, this would need more time. So, yes, if you have to do something over the weekend, then yes, but don't make a habit of it. So, we go back to the question of habits. Get to focus on the habits that help you control. It's like also looking at the achiever matrix. Did you plan for it? Were you in the right quadrant? Or was it something which you were doing at the last minute and you hadn't planned for it? Maybe that's why it took you so long, because you're not prepared for it, you're not planned for it. Or maybe you could have delegated some of the work to somebody else, and then you would have taken less time to do the job. So all these things come together in this question. It's a lovely question. Thank you very much for that, whoever said that. It brings together everything that I've been talking about. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Virish.
Uh,
So I don't think anyone got any other questions.
Okay, thank you for that. Then, so let's finish with this parting thought. No, no, try not, do or do not, but there is no try. Words of Yoda. So don't try, but do it. And with that, it remains for me to say thank you for sparing your time, because, and hopefully, I have managed to show you in my presentation how you can reclaim some more time. So the 48 minutes you spent with me, I hope you'll be able to reclaim that by doing the things I've taught you this morning, so that at the end of the day, you will have a win-win situation. You will have learned or gained some new insights about how you'll manage things better, and you will in future do more in the time you have available. So once again, thank you. Do keep in touch. If we run these webinars every month, and you'll be welcome to join us at the next month's one. You will receive details of it, and you will be shown how to book for them. So thank you and goodbye.